What is the best way to write a song? You could carefully plan it out, putting each word in the best spot and then going in and recording it. But what if you don't plan anything? You just go in and say whatever comes to mind on the spot. This is what we get on Juice WRLD's new album, Death Race for Love. Juice WRLD is a 20-year-old rapper out of Chicago, and despite his age, he already has a number of hits under his belt, like Lucid Dreams and All Girls Are the Same. He's also developed quite a reputation for his ability to freestyle. He can put together rhymes off of the top of his head seemingly forever. He famously went on Westwood and freestyled for an hour straight. Yep, one whole hour of making music up on the spot. Juice WRLD's ability to freestyle is apparent on his new album. He put it together in 72 hours. That's 23 songs in just 3 days. This fact is maybe most obvious on the track Feeling. It starts with the words "One Take Gang" and has a prominent freestyling mistake right in the middle of the track that they left in.
Boy, this ain't no I in team, but it's an me and team. I'm in it's a me and team. I know I just fucked up, but bitch, I'm still the freestyle king.
So let's break down Death Race for Love and see how freestyling impacts Juice WRLD's music. First, we should probably talk about what freestyling even means. The word has been around since the beginnings of hip-hop, but its definition has changed over the years. Back in the 1980s, freestyling was rapping something you had written down, but didn't talk about anything specific. Rapper Big Daddy Kane says that making rhymes up on the spot was called off-the-dome rapping, and it was completely different from freestyling. It wasn't until the 1990s that freestyling changed to off-the-dome rapping, thanks to groups like Freestyle Fellowship. This definition usually is what freestyling refers to today, raps that are made up on the spot. And one of the most prominent places you can find this happening is on the radio.
This is sway. Sway.
Sway.
Sway.
In the morning.
In the morning. In the morning.
Shows like Sway in the Morning will have artists come on and freestyle a verse. But freestyling doesn't just have to be reserved for artists showing off their abilities. For some, it's the only way they make music. Jay-Z famously makes all of his songs without writing down anything.
Hall of Fame, I did it all without a pen. I knew that was coming, I had to remind y'all again, huh?
He might plan it out beforehand, but he goes into the booth and does it all without looking at a single word. And this is how Juice WRLD also makes most of his music. He goes in and just says whatever comes to his mind. He doesn't write anything down beforehand. So let's see if there's any way that this impacts Death Race for Love. Freestyling's unplanned nature lends itself to sounds or mistakes that you might not plan out but add to the track. There's a couple parts of Death Race for Love that sound like the result of this sort of impromptu nature of freestyling. We already mentioned the prominent mistake in Feeling, and Robbery sounds like it was recorded drunk. You can hear Juice WRLD drinking Hennessy in the beginning of the song.
I was like, ooh, Hennessy strong as fuck, boy.
And then in verse 1, Juice WRLD sounds audibly drunk, slurring his words.
I woke up in a hearse. He said you love me first.
It doesn't exactly sound professional, but it matches with the emotional topics of heartbreak in the song and drinking to deal with these problems. Another example is the chorus in Flaws and Sins. At times it sounds like Juice WRLD uses a country inflection.
Your scars are really gorgeous. Ain't that a weird way to give compliments?
I'm not really sure why Juice WRLD opted for a country twang on the song. It's not like the instrumental lends itself to country. It has a guitar, but it sounds more metal or rockish. Although we have seen a little bit of country infecting rap music, especially with Lil Nas X's Old Town Road. So maybe it was just an impromptu choice by Juice WRLD that he built on as he was freestyling. These sort of impromptu sounds or mistakes have happened in other tracks. Most of the time they just get edited out before the final release, but in the rare case that they actually add to the track, they get left in. There's the famous example of Sting leaning on the piano in the beginning of Roxanne, which they probably left in because of the laugh that follows. Another example of this sort of mistake is when Ella Fitzgerald forgot the second chorus to Mac the Knife.
Oh, what's the next chorus to this song now?
Despite this mistake, this recording still went on to win a Grammy, and we got to see a pretty good Louis Armstrong impression too. These spur-of-the-moment sounds or mistakes can't really be planned out. They just happen as a result of the freestyling nature of a musical performance. And here on Death Race for Love, there's a couple times that they decided to leave these sounds in. Not only can you hear the impact of freestyling in the middle of these songs, you can also hear it in the intros and outros too. Over half of these songs, either in the beginning or end, have some sort of studio sound. Juice Wrld drinking or talking to someone else in the studio. Like in the beginning of Out My Way, where Juice Wrld talks about doing the song in one take. Or in the beginning of Won't Let Go, where Juice Wrld's talking about who's in the studio with him.
I'm in the studio with Max and Lottie.
Since Juice Wrld's freestyling these songs, they leave the mic on all the time. They don't want to miss anything. And sometimes they decide to throw these sounds in, giving a more relaxed vibe and showing what's really happening in the studio. Some other artists have also opted to use these studio sounds to help set the mood for the record. In Dirty Sprite 2, before Thought It Was a Drought, you can hear Future mixing cough syrup and soda. You can hear something similar in Van Halen's Hot for Teacher. They recreate the sounds of a rowdy classroom.
Oh, wow, man. Wait a second, man.
Like Future and Van Halen set the themes for their songs before it started, Juice Wrld does the same thing, taking advantage of the hot mic from recording Freestyles and throwing some of the sounds into his songs. Not only does freestyling show up in Juice Wrld's vocals, you can also hear it in the instrumentals for this album as well. Death Race for Love has a wide variety of sounds, and Juice Wrld probably wouldn't have been able to explore such a wide range if he wasn't freestyling. Take Hear Me Calling, which sounds worldly and Afrobeat.
Do you hear me calling? Do you hear me calling?
The only reason Juice Wrld even heard this instrumental is because he had worked through every other song the producer Perps had brought for him. There's also some songs with a rock influence, like Ring Ring.
I don't feel like coming to the phone today. Everyone should just leave me alone.
By freestyling these songs, Juice Wrld could work through a bunch of different genres in a short amount of time. He did record this album in 3 days. A good example of just how easy it is to work through beats freestyling is the Sway 5 Fingers of Death Freestyle Challenge.
You are now entering the 5 Fingers of Death.
DJ Wonder plays 5 unique beats meant to test your lyrical stamina.
Artists work through 5 different beats from a variety of different genres, back to back, and most of the time it doesn't take more than 5 minutes. This speed and flexibility of freestyling is what lets Juice Wrld work through a wide array of genres in Death Race for Love. Between the inflections and mistakes in these songs, the studio sounds put at the beginning and end, and the variety of instrumentals used, there's a number of ways that freestyling impacts Death Race for Love. And they all show us that you don't always have to plan out a good song. Sometimes you can just make it up as you go. That's a quick breakdown of how freestyling impacts Juice Wrld's Death Race for Love. Leave a comment on what you think of this album, Juice Wrld's music, and anything else you think sounds good. Make sure to subscribe to the Sound Selection YouTube channel, check out the podcast on iTunes, and follow on Instagram.